Welcome back to our last episode of our first season of science. Have you ever wondered how plants live and grow? In this episode, we're going to explore the plant life cycle, from a seed to a fully grown plant and back into soil to start all over again. We're also going to learn some lessons from Mother Nature that we can imitate at home in order to help our plants grow. This week's project involves learning how to set up your own composting bin at home, which can be a little bit more complicated than our last few experiments. By reviewing some tips and tricks, we're going to make sure that you are able to set up your own composting bin, a journey that you and your family can go on together. This week, science grows. In our recent videos, we learned how water transforms through the water cycle from lakes to clouds to rain and back again. This process is called a cycle because it happens in the same order over and over again, and also because the last stage of a cycle brings us back to the cycle's beginning. Just like how water changes in a cycle, plants also grow and transform throughout their life. They grow from a seed to a sprout, a plant, flower, and finally a fruit which holds seeds that can make future plants. This journey also forms a cycle, which is called the plant life cycle. And this will be what we're exploring today. To begin our exploration, we found a nearby forest trail in Windsor, Ontario. We encourage you to find a trail or local forest near your house where you can see the stages of the plant life cycle firsthand.
Today we're exploring Devonwood Conservation Area in Windsor, but there are many other hiking trails in Ontario that you can explore. We're including footage from other Ontario trails as well, because each forest is going to have its own plants to observe.
Walking through a forest trail, you will see examples of many different types of plants at different stages of life. This plant sprout has grown from a seed buried in the soil. However, seeds cannot grow on their own. First, they need access to several important resources in their environment to begin growing. All plants need soil, water, air, and sunlight in order to grow into a full-size plant. As a seed underground, plants don't have very much access to sunlight. However, they can grow slowly with little to no sunlight as they become sprouts. When a seed is underground, air and water naturally trickle down through cracks in the soil, allowing the seed to grow. To grow this big, this plant would have needed lots of all four of our needed ingredients. The taller and larger they get, the more sunlight a plant can capture. After a plant like this one has grown large enough, it will start forming buds, which will later turn into flowers, like this. Eventually, if these flowers are under the right conditions, they will lose their petals and reveal seeds. Some seeds can be found in fruit, such as berries, and other seeds are protected by hard shells, like pine cones. Making many seeds is important for a plant, because most seeds that a plant creates will never find the right conditions to grow into a full-size plant. Sometimes a single plant can produce thousands of seeds. What happens after a plant drops its fruit? Some plants only flower once. After this, they drop their fruit and start to wilt away. This is the end of its life cycle. Other plants may live for years or decades making flowers, fruit, and seeds before it eventually dies. All plants come to the end of their own life cycle eventually. What do you think happens to a plant once it starts to die? Once a plant is done growing and producing fruit, it starts to wilt, letting go of the water inside the plant. Eventually, parts of the plant will start to fall apart or break down. This is called decomposing. In some older forest trails, you can find fallen trees decomposing on the forest floor. Depending on how big the plant is, this can take years before the plant is fully decomposed. As the plant breaks apart, small microorganisms, bacteria, and bugs will eat away at the decomposed plant and eventually turn it into nutrient-rich soil that is full of important vitamins and minerals. The soil that is made this way is very valuable to new plants because it helps them grow with all the nutrients they need. All of the nutrient-rich soil that is created by decomposing plants is the reason why we see so many plants in forests. So many plants have grown, lived, and decomposed, and as a result, the soil holds all of the important nutrients for new life. The end of the life cycle is very important in creating a good environment for the start of a new plant to grow. If this is how the plant life cycle works in nature, where do plants get their food in our homes and gardens? How do we feed our own plants and vegetables at home to make sure that they get all the food that they need to grow and be strong? Many people buy fertilizer to help feed their plants extra nutrients. Fertilizer can be made with artificial chemicals, but it can also be made with natural leftovers of dying plants, just like in our forest floor. An easy way to make your own fertilizer is by building a composting bin at home, and learning how to compost your own food scraps to create nutrient-rich soil for your own gardens. By the end of this video, you will be able to make your own nutrient-rich soil, perfect for growing your own plants. To do this, we will create our own composting bin. Our at-home composting bin may require using power tools that could harm you if used carelessly, so please make sure you have a parent or guardian to help you set up this project. Make sure you get permission from your parents to begin composting at home, and also ask where the best place to set up your compost bin will be. As it can become messy or even smelly as food waste decomposes, try to choose a space that is at least several meters from areas where you like to spend time. Before we get started, what is composting? Composting is a human-made process that imitates the way that plants decompose in nature, but quicker. This process helps to make lots of nutrient-rich soil. In the composting process, we control different conditions of our compost bin to make sure our plants are decomposing as fast as possible. Some things that are important to control inside your compost bin are the moisture level, temperature, the level of oxygen, and the balance of soil and plant waste. To start composting, you need to begin by sorting and collecting your organic food waste. This is any food waste you'd throw away that does not have any plastic, paper, or other manufactured material attached to it. Some examples are fruit and vegetable scraps, peels and pits, meat, fish, eggs, including eggshells, and other foods that you might be throwing away. On our website, you can find a printout for your fridge that lists all the things you can and cannot compost. Make sure to use this when you are first learning to sort your organic waste, since this will make sure you are only composting things that can break down in your compost bin. An easy way to collect your organic waste is to purchase a small organics bin for your kitchen. You can then empty your organics into a composting bin outside whenever it fills up. This is like a small trash can just for the organic waste in your house. If you want to start composting but cannot build your own compost bin, you can contact us at Science City for recommendations on where to purchase a compost bin for your backyard. If you do not have the space to make a compost bin yourself, many cities have connections with composting companies which collect your food scraps for you. If your city does not have a compost program, there might be local organizations that offer similar services. Now, let's get started. To build our composting bin, we will need a 10-gallon bucket with a lid, soil, organic matter or food waste, a trowel, and an electric drill with a drill bit between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch in size. 10-gallon buckets and lids can be purchased at most building supply stores, such as Home Depot, Home Hardware, and Lowe's. If you can only find a 5-gallon bucket, this will also work fine. Start by taking the lid of your 10-gallon bucket and drill between 8 to 16 holes through it. This will allow a small amount of air into your composter, but still trap some heat inside. Using a hand shovel, scoop a thick layer of soil into your bucket. Next, begin adding your organic matter or food waste into your bucket. Try to create a layer of organic matter that is about the same thickness as your soil layer. After you've completed this layer of organic material, add another layer of soil that is about the same thickness as your first layer. Repeat this pattern until your bucket is almost full. Leave at least 5 centimeters of space at the top to allow air into the bucket. Now, your composter is ready to do its work. Place your bucket outside in an area where the smell won't bother you. If you take good care of your compost, the smell should be mild, smelling like fragrant soil. Your compost will need access to air in order for bacteria and microorganisms in the soil to break down your organic matter. To make sure that there is enough air deep in your bucket, take a shovel and turn over your compost once every 3 or 4 days. If your food waste does not seem to be breaking down, or the compost bin has a strong, pungent smell, turn over your compost more frequently. For decomposition to happen, compost needs a small amount of moisture or water in the soil. If the compost appears to be very dry, use a watering can to add a small amount of water until it is damp, but not pooling with water. You may find that your compost pile can become very hot after some time. This is a natural part of the composting process, so don't stress. If left alone, your compost could become so hot that decomposition slows down or stops. But if you are turning it regularly like we mentioned before, overheating should not happen. If you follow our tips, your composting bin should have made healthy, nutrient-rich soil in about 2 months. This soil should have a similar consistency to garden soil, and you'll no longer be able to see pieces of plant matter. It could take less or more time depending on many factors, but in the end, you should have soil that your garden will love. We hope that your project is successful, and remember, if you'd like help setting up a healthy composting bin, follow the link in our video description to find printable resources on the Science City website. If you have started a composting project at home, we would love to see your finished project, so please share them with us. You can do this by sharing a post on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and tagging us, or using our hashtag ScienceCityAtHome. We hope that you enjoyed Science Grows, our last video from Season 1 of Science. We also hope that you enjoyed learning about simple machines, the water cycle, bird identification, and the plant life cycle, as well as experimenting and exploring science in your daily life. We hope that you continue exploring your world and that you stay curious. So until next time,
keep exploring.